After watching it for a second time, we gotta talk about all of the best and worst moments in Superman in a full spoiler-like manner, because trust me, I got a lot of hot takes. While I still love the movie, there's still some things I really wanted to change, and I low-key feel like I'm cooking just a little bit. And on top of that, I really just want to talk about some of my favorite moments from the movie, as well as giving you my finalized review at the end, because Superman really had it all. Insane teases for the Justice League, setups for some really fun spin-off, and some hints and teases at who the potential overarching villain of the DC Universe could be. So this is your spoiler warning. You have been warned. This is your choice. Either way, me and you know what we gotta do. We gotta talk about it. First things first, rest in peace, Uncle Phil. But for real, crazy head place. But for real, we gotta talk about the elephant in the room, and that is Ultraman. Because in the months leading up to the movie, there were so many potential guesses on who Ultraman could ultimately end up being, with one of the cooler theories being that he could potentially be Doomsday, but the most popular theory was just a clone of Superman. And that's exactly the way it played out in the movie. They legit took a panel out of the Boys comic run, where Black Noir is revealed to be a clone of Homelander, and said, I'll take that. It turns out, while he was studying Superman, he also got a piece of his hair. And of course, that bald-headed six-head was easily able to clone him. But the issue is, he's a dumbass. So I like how he's able to play like Mortal Kombat IRL by putting in these codes. I got 1A, 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 1 ingrained inside my brain. I always knew Lex was a button masher for real. Now this ultimately ends with Superman hitting that reverse Uno card on Lex and saying brain beats brawn by having Krypto take out all the cameras that are helping him control Ultraman. And then he takes that man to Pound Town. Hold up. But on my first viewing, I hated the fact that Superman essentially killed him. My initial thought was, really, James, why are we doing Man of Steel again? You saw just how much everyone hated that decision in Man of Steel, and you're having him kill someone again? Like, you're just giving the Snyder writers more fuel. But then I started thinking about it a little bit more, and, you know, in all likelihood, a black hole does kill you. But in a comic book movie, for the most part, if you don't see the body, just know someone's coming back. A popular theory is that he's gonna come back deformed and be Bizarro. I personally wouldn't like that. Honestly, I would rather have that be like Doomsday, to be honest, than anything, because I really want to see Bizarro World. But once I started thinking about this whole reveal a little bit more, I started to go into the kitchen, and I think I cooked up something a little better. I think it would have been cooler if Superman found out that he was cloned a little bit earlier in the movie, like the midway point, and actually around the same time, or maybe a little bit after, he finds out that his parents sent him to Earth to conquer and destroy them, which I'll dive a little bit deeper into this because this is something else I want to dissect. But I think that would have played into a more thematic and more fulfilling character arc for having a cloned version of Superman and Ultraman. When Superman is at his lowest, questioning his own self, his own morals, having a darker version of himself that he can literally look at in the mirror to try to save, which is the most Superman thing in the world, I think would have been much more compelling. And you could have done this without the public knowing that Lex cloned Superman. They could have had a Vision and White Vision ship of Theseus moment, even though he is a dumbass. Superman could have said like, you're free now, and he could have just flown away somewhere, and then we could have picked up on that storyline later. I just feel like that would have been cool because that's Superman to his core, especially after the fact that he wasn't able to save the kaiju. But like I said, I still feel like James Gunn has plans for Ultraman in the future. Now moving on to the other controversial piece of this movie, where some people downright hate it and some people downright love it. I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle, and that's the fact that Kryptonians are basically Viltrumites and Saiyans. And Kal-El, by the way, I love the way Bradley Cooper says Kal-El, Kal-El, was sent to Earth to conquer them. Outside of the various evil Superman storylines, Krypton being evil is something that has showed up in various Superman media. Most recently in My Adventures with Superman, and even Smallville dabbled into this before they retconned it. I'm of two minds of this because it goes back to, this is, by the way, is my favorite scene in the entire movie. Everything with Ma and Pa Kent, I wanted a little bit more of, but it ties back to this conversation he had with Pa Kent where he says, it's the choices who make us who we are, Clark. And you make the right choice every single time. You are a good person, essentially is what he's saying. And he's so damn proud that he's your dad. Tears! But it's true. I love that. I love that Superman wasn't like a chosen prophet. I love that he just chooses to do the right thing. It's very Spider-Man coded. We always have a choice and we can always choose to do what's right. It also kind of speaks to the immigrant experience where you're trying to leave a country or a planet that isn't so great in favor of an opportunity to be something more, be something better. Man, I love this movie the more I talk about it. And that kind of leads perfectly into one of my favorite moments, and that's Superman's monologue to Lex at the end of the movie, where he says, I laugh, I get scared, I cry. That's what makes me human. It is a little on the nose, but Superman is on the nose. I love that. I was honestly almost brought to tears in that moment because you can just feel like he's trying to get his point across. I've been in that position where it's like, I'm just trying to make a point of being a good fucking person, and I'm just trying to put every single piece of passion I have in me to get the point across. But speaking of Lex, this man was moving different. A brother in Christ, the entire movie, you're led to believe that he wants to be a king. He wants to have power. He wants to have half of Jarheimper. But dog, when it's revealed he only started the war between Baravia and Jarheimper as an excuse for the government to let him kill Superman is just insane levels of dick riding. I'm sorry. This man has inspired me to become a better hater. I don't think I hate enough, like in my lifetime. He hated more in this movie than I have in my lifetime. I need to get my numbers up. There's really levels to this hating game. And the same way I feel about Superman's monologue is the same way I feel about Lex's evil monologue. monologue. When he starts mentioning Galileo and how he feels like he's about to vomit in the back of his throat when he gets mentioned in the same breath as them. And he's just going on this bald-headed demon-ass rant and how he's very aware that he is envious of Superman, and that's what fuels him and powers him to keep doing what he does. Because he's made it his entire mission in life to hate Superman for being an alien. An alien can't be the most powerful person on the planet. It needs to be a human in his eyes. Him specifically, he's a narcissist. And every single action he does in this movie just shows how hateful he really is towards Superman. Obviously cloning him, spitting on his name, media manipulation, kidnapping Krypto and torturing him. The Russian roulette scene in particular is crazy. This man was moving like Owen Davian in this movie. Like, even I was like, oh shit, you could hear a pin drop in my theater when he killed that dude on the second roll. He had no remorse, no sympathy. He said, who else can I kill that you love? And the level of angry he gets when Superman thwarts even one little bit of his plan, dog, there's levels to hating, and this is the epitome of that. And just know he's gonna spin the block back in this thing, and I need that more than I need air. Easily another one of the best aspects of this film is Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane. She perfectly embodies the essence of Lois, but in particular I'm talking about the dynamic between Lois and Clark. And I love how they're two sides of the same coin. One thinks with their heart, one thinks with their brain. And when they come into a head-on collision with each other, it's cinema. The interview scene in the beginning is just so fucking enthralling. I was locked in. I had that LIS, locked in syndrome, because I found myself agreeing with both of them at times. I was like, oh, you know, Lois got a point. But when Superman just starts yelling, he's like, people were going to die. Like, I felt that to my core. Like, he's just trying to do good. But even when he does good, bad shit happens. I've been there before. Maybe not saving people, but you know what I mean. That feeling of constantly trying to do good but being punished for those actions is insane. So I really felt for both of them in this moment. And I also really love that scene in Clark's apartment with the interdimensional imp. By the way, that's got to be a Mr. Mixpixpolis. I don't know how to say his name. Mr. Fuck, I always fuck that up. Magic. Gotta be a reference to him. But I love the sincerity in this conversation. This is the first time they mentioned punk rock. And I love the little banter back and forth between what punk rock really is. With Clark saying kindness. You know, I think that's the real punk rock. I love how Lois is like, are you gonna help them out? And he's like, well, I need to find the dog. Like, he's scared, he's alone. He's just a dog, not even a good one. Like, that's just so sweet. Like, he cares so much. That's Superman. And then, of course, when they kiss and make out floating up into the air, this is one of the most romantic scenes. It's probably the best superhero kiss scene since Spider-Man 1. You can quote me. And then, of course, the whole punk rock aspect comes to a crescendo with the Teddy Bear's Punk Rocker playing at the end of the movie. I love that shit. Because I'm a punk rocker, yes I am. Outside of that, I love every moment of people helping Superman out and every single moment of him saving people, even a squirrel. Those moments coupled with the flying scenes were just, in particular, the scene of him just posing up a storm after he stopped the building from collapsing on that lady. Full body chills. And by the way, when they're evacuating Metropolis, we got a Gotham City limit highway sign. Thought we would have noticed, but we did. Batman on a way, but who's going to be playing Batman? Robert Pattinson? Or me, because I'm vengeance. I will say something I didn't really like was the lack of the Daily Planet, and particularly the big three between Lois, Jimmy, and Clark. I really wanted to see more of their dynamic as a trio. And more of the entire cast of the Daily Planet. I feel like they were underutilized. Although they did serve a great purpose in the plot of the story. Just wanted a little bit more. Obviously, Mr. Terrific is one of the hardest, coldest needle drop scenes in the entire movie. I'm so glad everyone gets to see how cool one of the smartest mans, if not the smartest man in DC, is. And now we need the Terrific spinoff. Another thing I love about this movie is just how much they show the symbol and blast John Williams' score. Because that shit is hard. Run that shit back. Side note, I think the hardest I laughed was at the dumb monkey joke and how all the internet trolls are basically just stupid monkeys who write hashtag super shit. That shit had me weak. My entire theater was dying. And of course, Krypto was a highlight. He even had his own little character arc moment. I also love how you understand why he is the way he is because of Supergirl. He's a drunk, so she likes a rough, playful pup. And when he starts ragdolling Lex at the end of the movie, it reminds me of Hulk smashing Loki. Shit's so funny. Krypto said, I need to get my lick back. For real. Anytime Superman is spinning in this movie, 10 out of 10, no notes, absolute cinema. Don't even get me started on the most chill-inducing moment where the kids of Jarheimper put the flag up and they start chanting Superman, Superman. Chills, full body chills. I was low-key hoping that he would show up, bro. If he showed up, I would have ascended to the heavens. But I don't mind that it was the Justice Gang. They got to aura farm a little bit. But we also get a nice little not-so-surprise cameo from Millie Alcock as Kara Zor-El, aka Supergirl. She stumbles in all drunkenly, and we find out she's here to collect Krypto, who is her dog. And now we know why Krypto is a bad boy. Stop it. This is setting up Supergirl's movie, which is going to be the next DCU movie that comes out. And that scene literally felt like I opened up the first page of this book and was introduced to a drunken Kara Zor-El. And I don't think you guys realize just how incredible this movie is going to be. It's going to be very intergalactic and space vibe as Kara drinks to suppress the pain of her trauma of what happened to Krypton. And in case you didn't know, we're going to get our first ever live action appearance of Lobo, played by Jason Momoa. And I'm letting you guys know right now, it's a revenge story, and if they adapt it perfectly from the book, it's going to be better than Superman, and you can quote me. But please don't let what happens to Krypto happen to Krypto. No! And in the movie, we get a brief cameo from John Cena as Peacemaker being interviewed on a news broadcast about Superman and how much he does not like him. Basically because he's getting all the credit for saving people, but nobody knows he saved people. And Peacemaker Season 2 actually is our next DCU project. So there's gonna be a lot of fallout from Superman that happens in this show. And they also gotta explain like all of this multiversal shit. Because don't forget, at the end of Peacemaker Season 1, we got the DCEU's version of the Justice League with Jason Momoa as Aquaman and you know who as The Flash. So there's definitely gonna be some type of multiversal shenanigans, especially because we got Peacemaker versus Peacemaker in the trailer. And we also know that Maxwell Lord, who made a brief appearance in Superman, is gonna be making a bigger appearance in Peacemaker Season 2. Looks like he has a lot of power, and it looks like they have not learned from evil billionaires. And I'm assuming Peacemaker is interviewing to be a part of the Justice Gang, so he better say it's a cool name. And mind you, we also got a brief appearance from Frank Grillo, who transcended mediums from Creature Commandos to live action in Superman as Rick Flag Sr. There's gonna be a lot of fallout because you killed his son, Peacemaker. And with him being the head of Argus now, this is gonna be some fun shenanigans. Now I'm sure there's gonna be more in store for the lore and more Metamorpho, because we also got a brief little tease at Stag Industries in the Superman movie, and there's a whole bunch of fallout that they can follow up with his origin. But where else I can see Metamorpho appearing, and what I think is James Gunn's next secret project that he's working on, is a project that solely focuses on Mr. Terrific, and in fact, I think it's The Terrifics, a version of it. And I can't think of a better team for James Gunn to take and make his own, because this is shit works, bro. He takes like these lesser known comic characters, and I know for us DC fans, we know most of these characters, but for the general audience, it's gonna get weird, it's gonna get crazy, it's gonna feel like The Suicide Squad. So maybe this is where he introduces Plastic Man, and we get the return of Jolo Maridueña's Blue Beetle, because I love Blue Beetle, and I love Jolo as Blue Beetle. Plus, they need to follow up on that little tease of Ted Kord. And also, who was watching this message? Notice the Oreo. That's not just product placement, that's a little tease at my boy, John Johns, aka Martian Manhunter. And I beg of you, James, please bring Martian Manhunter to the DCU, I need him. And if they do end up introducing him in the DCU, take some inspiration from Absolute Martian Manhunter, because this shit is psychedelic as because they introduced the Hall of Justice, which is the Justice Gang's hideout for now. So they need to start planting some seeds on who the Justice League members are gonna be. It's a blink and you'll miss it moment in Superman, but when the city of Metropolis is being evacuated and Superman saves the people on one of the bridges, one of the highway signs says "This way to Gotham." So we're this much closer to finding out who the DCU's version of Batman is gonna be. And I need that more than I need air. And with the Amazonians already being introduced in Creature Commandos, you know Wonder Woman is on the way, so we're this much closer to getting the most comic accurate interpretation of DC's Trinity. And this shit made sense to me. Now, don't forget, we also got the engineer who was introduced in this movie. And Legend says she's still knocked out taking a nap underground in Metropolis. But this is obviously planting seeds for an eventual authority lineup, whether it be a movie or they just show up in another movie. You just know this is going to be the government's answer to superheroes. And we also have the Lanterns HBO Max series, where we're going to see the return of Guy Gardner and the introduction of Jon Stewart, played by Aaron Pierre, and Kyle Chandler as Hal Jordan. They've been saying the inspiration for this show is True Detective, so I cannot wait. And finally, this is just me speculating, but I think the villain for an eventual Superman sequel is most likely going to be Brainiac, just because of all of the concepts and weird shit that they introduced in Superman. There's no better time to do it than now, and he was supposed to be the villain in Kevin Smith and Nicolas Cage's Superman movie that never got made. And if they do introduce him in the DCU, which they should, having him be an overarching villain for this first phase of the DCU would be fire, because y'all don't realize just how much of a problem Brainiac is. And all in all, while Superman isn't the perfect movie, it's my not so perfect movie, because it just embodies everything that I aspire to be as a human being and what I hope most of society aspires to be. Need more hope, we need more kindness, just be kinder to each other, treat each other with respect, and love unconditionally and uncontrollably, because it's the actions who make us who we are. And I'm choosing love, peace, positivity, and hope.